I'll just kind of give you guys an overview of what we'll be talking about today, but really today is about just showing you guys some of the changes that we've been working on over the last couple months around making building a little bit more intuitive and way to health. So the first thing we'll be talking about is just an overview of the changes, basically what changed, how to add an event, and Devin will actually be building a few examples with our most commonly used events, and then how those changes sort of impact some other screens and Way to Health, mainly the overview screen. So please at any time just stop us if you have a question. Feel free to either say the question on the phone. If you feel more comfortable using the chat feature and join me, you're more than welcome to do that as well. I think we'll just get started now. So this is actually, we wanted to show you in conjunction with these features that we're releasing. If you're not familiar with our user guide, we have tons of documentation available in our user guide on Confluence, and under the section Building Project Arms and Events, you'll see a new page called Encounters to Events, How to Do It Now. So this is basically a cheat sheet for all of the new changes that we're releasing. And the biggest change that you'll see is really that events are the new encounters. So we are no longer using the term encounters. Encounters are referred to going forward as events. So some of the changes that you'll see is there's a lot of little different wording changes in Way to Health. So all encounter instances have been changed to event, including the add button on the ARM schedules. When you go to add a new encounter, it is called now new event. And then the biggest thing you'll see the change is in the drop down, where as before we used to have 10 different encounter types, now we just have a total of 6 action-based events for you to choose from. And they're a little bit more intuitive for people to choose from. Now sending a message is literally just sending a message. You no longer have to know that in a roundup you can send a message. So any questions about that change before we move forward? And we'll be kind of comparing the old to the new in just a minute. So I think one of the most helpful parts of this page is this comparison chart. So for people who are used to sort of building in the old way, here's the comparison for what it translates to now. And you'll see some kind of repetition as we go further down this chart. But alert message is now called send a message. Surveys are now called Administer a Qualtrics survey, and within Administer a Qualtrics survey, if you wanted to set it up as an office visit, it is now just a setting within that event called Allow Project Staff to Complete. And then one of our more kind of powerful events is called Add Logic or Send a Conditional Message. Now this can be, I think, a little bit confusing at a glance. They basically do the same thing. These events are essentially interchangeable. You can either use add logic or send a conditional message to send an event when you want to have it based off of certain conditions that happened. So for example, you can base them off of an event's completion or compliance. You can base an add logic or send conditional message on a participant's answer to a Qualtrics survey. Or this is where you would find your previous game feedback. So it would be based on point balance, game level, or team leader status. So yeah, let me just pause there and see if anybody has any questions around add logic or send a conditional message. Okay. So great. We'll move on now to collect data, which is the old device upload. Collect data actually has a special little feature built in that if you're using a Twilio device for bidirectional texting, it actually has a different icon depending on what device that you use, and this is done automatically through Way to Health. It just enables you to see really the difference between a message that you're sending participants versus information that the participant is sending back to Way to Health. So we created this little red icon bubbles, so you would easily be able to see the difference in your protocol. And then the last one is actually run lottery. The wording's not that different, and it actually only appears if you have incentives set up on your arm. So just in case you're not seeing that, that just means that you don't have incentives enabled on your arm. Okay, so we hope that this chart will be helpful to you guys moving forward, and it is always available to you in our user guide. So let's now go to Way to Health, and we'll kind of walk you through a little bit further how you can add a new event.
Yes.
So Devin's gonna kind of build some of these events as I help us talk through it, or I'll talk you through it, I should say. So she's gonna first add a new arm and give it a name.
Really creative here, guys.
Yeah, just a test arm.
So if you did want the lottery, this is where you would select that. So I would select payments and I would select lottery. And I'll just do that so you can see what I'm doing here. And then when we go to add new event, now lottery will appear as an option. Otherwise it won't show up. And then I'm going to do add, and this will add our new arm. Great. So as before, although it did say encounter schedule before, didn't it?
It did say encounter schedule before, so this is another change that you'll notice. Encounters, everywhere encounter used to be is now replaced with the word event. So you'll just click on event schedule to go to your events overview and click on add new event to start adding events to your ARM schedules.
Great. So click that. And you'll see that there immediately is a lot less options, so I think there's less room for error when it kind of walks you step by step. So the first thing that we want to do is send a welcome message to our participants. So when we look at this drop down here, since we want to send a welcome message, it follows that we want to select send a message. And I'm going to name this, and I'm just going to call it welcome message. And since we want this to begin at the start of the study, I'm going to start it on day 0 at 12 a.m., meaning they'll get it immediately as soon as they're started in the study. I don't need it to repeat because it's just a one-time welcome message. And let's say I want to send this via text only. I'm going to choose my delivery method as text only. Way to Health will default to per participant notification preferences, which is set up in the participant's profile. So here, I can use any of these variables down here in order to auto-populate the message. So if I want to personalize it, I'll use participant. So that would be like John or Jane. And then I'll say, welcome to the Way to Weight Loss study.
Great. So
Great.
one of the things before Devin moves on, I just wanted to point out is that you'll see now in the new event form that we have these sections, so you can easily see what settings are scheduling versus messaging, and the form kind of flows you down in a more, we think, a more easy way.
Yeah.
And one of the, I think that's it. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about this or
no? No. So this is actually a good setting to call out. So this is if you want to collect a response from the recipient, you would check that box. And Wade Health, just in case people would think, because we found that our users sometimes think in actions and they're like, well, what I want to do is send a message. And not necessarily thinking about if that message is conditional or not when they're writing the message. So you would be able to click that box, and let me just show you what happens when we do click that. If you click that, and you actually do want to collect responses from recipients, Wade Health will prompt you to create another event, a collect data event, so that you can collect those responses for participants. So it has a little bit more built-in guidance than it previously had before. Yeah, we don't want to do that right now, so we're just going to leave that unchecked, but just so you guys are aware what that setting does.
Great. And then I'll click add. And you can see it's loading here. And then now you'll see our new event was created, and you'll see like the Confluence page shows we have this new message icon. And this is pretty much clearer, better formatted, easier to follow, and you can see exactly what we're sending to the participant, when it's being sent, and how it's being sent. Great. Should I move on to the next one? Does anyone have any questions about that? And don't forget, you can send anything via the Join Me chat if you would like. We are watching that. Okay, great. So let's move on to our next event that we're going to add. So after we have our welcome message, we want to start collecting data because it is a weight loss study. So again, we're going to go to New Event. And then I would like to, and we want to collect data from the participant's scale. So for this example, we're going to use collect data. And then Wade Health is going to prompt us to choose one of the devices that we have set up. So we had already previously set up a Fitbit, a scale, and the bidirectional SMS. If you didn't have anything here, that would mean you hadn't set up a device yet,
right?
Correct?
And now it's actually built into the flow that Wade Health will, if you don't have a device already set up and you select collect data, it would prompt you to set up that device.
And you would do that by going to the devices tab over here. But since we've already done that, we're going to do Withings scale. And we're just going to call this daily step count. Or, oh, I'm sorry, daily weight. Great. And we want to start this again immediately as soon as the participant is started into the study. And we want to let them weigh in all day. So we're going to start it at midnight on day 0, and it's going to end 0 days later at 11:59. So that essentially means that they have 24 hours to weigh in. And it's a 30-day study. So let's say we want to repeat this daily every 1 day. So that means every single day for 30 times. Okay, and this is just passive data collection, so we don't need to send a message to the participant. So I'm going to go ahead and click add, unless anyone has any questions. Okie doke. Great, and again you can see our daily weight event has been added, and we have this cute little data collection icon now. And again, you can see all of the information about the encounter or the event here. So now on day 1, after the participant has stepped on their scale for day 0, we want to send them feedback about whether they weighed in or not. So this one's a little bit trickier. You're going to have to do, again, you're going to do new event. But for this one, we're going to want to do a conditional message because it's based on if they weighed in the day before or not. So it's conditional on that weigh-in. So I'm going to do send a conditional message. And this message is based on a previous event's completion or compliance. So we don't care about a Qualtrics survey and we don't care about gamification. So we'll choose events completion or compliance. And we'll just call this daily weigh-in feedback. And because it's looking at the previous day and telling the participant if they weighed in or not, we don't want to start this until 1 day later. So it's going to be days 1 from participant start. And we don't want to bombard them too early, so we'll say 11 a.m. And again, we're going to want to repeat this daily every 1 day 30 times since it's a 30-day study. Any questions about this so far? Okay, great. So now instead, if you remember previously in Way to Health, you would have to save this and then go to the feedback. Now Way to Health will take you directly to define that logic. So we're going to click the Define Logic button. And you'll see we're automatically here, which is, one less step that we have to worry about. So our only option here is if, and then we're going to specify earlier encounters. Ooh, that's so if all of the following are true, so it's going to bring up our previous encounter, that daily weight encounter. And then this can be a little bit tricky. So for this one, it's straightforward, but let me know if you have any questions. So it's going to say, of the last daily weights, at least one of the events were completed. Of the last 1 event, at least 1 were completed. So basically, if they weighed in yesterday, then we want to send a message. And then we can select our recipient here, which we want to be the participant. And we're going to say, congrats on weighing in yesterday. Keep up the great work. Oops. And again, you can use these variables if you want to personalize it to the participant. You can select the notification preferences. So if they weighed in, we're going to send them this message. But if they didn't weigh in, we want to also let them know. So that's going to be an otherwise criteria. And again, we're going to send it to the participant, and we're going to say, you did not weigh in yesterday. Remember to weigh in today to get back on track. And again, we can do the variables and the participation notification preference. Any questions about that?
Devin, can I ask a
Yes.
question? Once you save this screen and you go back, I think it might be helpful to explain why you decided to add a new event versus defining logic on the daily weigh-in.
Okay, I can do that. Great, so I'm going to click Save Feedback. And now you can see our conditional message for that daily weigh-in feedback that the participant will get about whether they weighed in or not. So Christiane's question was, why didn't I just add the logic directly onto the daily weigh-in? And the reason that I didn't want to do that is because basically what would happen is as soon as the event closed at midnight, because remember we defined it from 12 a.m. to 11:59, p.m., as soon as that closed, that would send the message out. Now, Way to Health does have holds in place that it won't send messages until 8 a.m., so unless it was an email. So like they wouldn't get a text message or a phone call until 8 a.m. that next day. But even 8 a.m., especially on a Saturday or a Sunday, is pretty early for a lot of people. So we try to be cognizant of that, and we usually recommend, 10 or 11 a.m. for feedback, unless there's like a clinical reason for it to be earlier. So that's why I did it separately. But you could do it directly here with this Define Logic, but they would just get it kind of early. So
basically, the creating a new event allows you to schedule it ahead of
Yes.
for a
Yes.
certain time. Okay.
instead of as soon as the event closes.
And just in case, I'm just going to edit this collect data, and just in case, you guys don't remember that, we've actually added this setting that says on collect data, it says send participant a message on the start of this event to further reinforce that difference. So if you were going to send the message, this
That would
is
be when
like
it
feedback.
opens.
Yeah.
That would be when it opens. True.
Okay, so that's a little bit different, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the things I did want to point out while we have this edit event open is that now you can actually save and define logic straight from this edit screen instead of having to save the event as you did previously and then click the define logic button, which is the former feedback button. So if you guys haven't noticed that yet, we've been sort of clicking on that define logic button, but it's just the new wording for the feedback button. We wanted to clarify that for everybody, that along with encounters changing to events, that feedback is now called define logic.
And in case anyone missed release notes, we do have this lovely new copy event button. So if you hover over, it should, should say, okay, maybe not. It's weird. But you can now copy encounters or events, so you can speed up your build process if you have events that are very similar to each other within an arm to help you save time when building. So if I were to click that, it would duplicate the event, and then you would just rename it to the new name, and then you could make changes as needed, and you would click this duplicate button. Any questions? Do you have other things?
No, I think we went over all of the big changes. So if nobody has any questions or anything else to add, you guys will have the gift of time. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the opportunity where we can open it up to everyone and let us know what you think about the new changes. These new changes aren't yet released. They will be released in a few weeks. I think we have scheduled for June 14th.
Can people sign up for this view before?
Yes, so you can request special access if you would like to build with this new event screens, we're calling it. So if you would like to have access early, please let us know by just emailing the Way to Health team at waytohealth@uphs.upenn.edu, and we can set up your study with this new way to build.
I would just be curious, it looks like we have a few less people on the call. Some people maybe have to drop off, but since there's kind of a smaller number, does this feel a little bit more clear than it used to? Are there things that still feel confusing, or does this help with understanding how Way to Health, how you can build on Way to Health, and how you can even how you can look at your event schedule after you've done the build. So for the projects that are kind of in a maintenance mode, we hope that this new view will be helpful as well. And as Iris pointed out in the beginning, we do have the Confluence page that kind of references the old way and the new way for those people like Devin who are kind of used to the old way. And that feels easy to them. So we wanted to make sure that they had a bridge for the new, more intuitive way, though we understand that some people may just be used to the old way and that feels easy to them. So we're hoping that it'll be an easy transition for everybody.
I just had a quick comment. I think this is a really great change to make things more intuitive. I've been around since the launch of Way to Health in 2011. I haven't had direct experience with build. I've had research coordinators do it. I've had some involvement, but it's been minimal. But I've been on the outskirts nonetheless. I really think this is a great improvement, and it makes it more intuitive, and it's spelled out. I think the way it's spelled out with the build is definitely going to make it easier, especially with, not taking things all the way through. We have turnover here over the years too, and this is going to last. Way to Health is going to be around for a while. It's not forever, hopefully. And I think even just with the turnover of new clinical research coordinators coming on board that just don't have the experience, obviously, that this is going to be even better for newbies as well. So that's just my comment. I think it's a great job, you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for those still sticking around, joining our first webinar. I think maybe we'll send out some feedback so you guys can tell us what was useful about it. Do you guys want more webinars like this? What could we even do to improve this webinar experience for you? So thanks for hanging in there in our first go at this. We're super excited to release these features to you guys and just seeing where it goes from there. So thank you so much. All right, everybody.
Thanks for all the great work, you guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you. All right, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.